My name is Alex. I've been cutting my own hair for about 6 or so years, and now that we're all stuck inside because you can't go anywhere and nobody can get a haircut, I figured it'd be a good time to share what I know. So, next couple of minutes, I hope to be able to try to teach you how to cut your hair. Alright, first things first, location. This is my bathroom. I was just talking to you, never mind the tripod. Anyways, the big things here are you would like to have some kind of plain wall that ideally is an opposite color of your hair. So if you're a fair-haired individual, you'd want a darker wall. Since I have dark hair, light wall is working out pretty good for me. You want a lot of light, as much light as you possibly can, for obvious reasons. Second, you want a very cleanable surface, because you're gonna get a lot of mess everywhere. So get rid of any kind of rugs or towels or anything, and get ready. Alright, let's talk equipment. Well, what you want to do before you even get started is get some kind of like a dust buster, a vacuum or something like that, because you don't want to walk around your house covered in hair. It's a good way for your wife or girlfriend or mom or whoever to yell at you. The next thing that should be obvious is a quality set of clippers. These are cordless. I highly recommend it. It's going to get really annoying having a cord whacking the back of the head when you're trying to do all kind of stuff up here. These ones are great because they have this variable taper, which is basically that little lever that I'll show you later. And what that does is actually move the teeth up and down and gives you a little bit more control. So if you're going for like a number 2, you can then do like a 2.5 without having to change your blade, and it really makes the fade mechanism a lot easier. Alright, a couple of the other tools that you're going to need is a mirror to be able to do the back of your hair, some kind of comb, and probably scissors, unless you're a buzz cut only kind of person. But if that's the case, why are you watching this video? Just put on number 2 and just hack at it. But maybe the most important thing you need for a home haircut is a frosty and delicious beer. Not only does it taste great, but it also steadies the hand and measures your expertise as a barber. Because if you can have this beer out and about while you're cutting your hair and not get any hair in it, you've obviously become a master of the craft. Alright, let's get into the basics of how this kind of works. Now, I told you before it's very important to have a background behind you that is opposite the color of your hair. And this is important because that's what we're going to use to judge whether or not we've done a good job or not. You can kind of see the silhouette of my head behind me, and as I turn my head, you can see that it changes a little bit because of course my head is shaped like a head and not like a perfect circle or anything. So the deal is that you actually want to be able to take the guard, okay, that's attached to your clippers and run it up, straight up your hair to a given point. Now to find that point, the easiest thing to do is usually just kind of give it a push like this. And you kind of look at, you know, where does the clippers start and where does stuff that would be cut by a scissor start, which for me is about right in here. Now it's going to vary for you, but this is kind of where I'm aiming at. The longest length that I go with is a number 2. I would recommend going with a little bit longer if this is your first time, because longer you can always cut it a little bit shorter. It also kind of hides mistakes a little bit better if you go super short. I'm going to go actually from a half to a 1 to a 2 with that variable taper that I was talking about earlier in between. So the trickiest bit of all of this actually is the first one, because this is where everybody screws it up when you get up to the actual part of your hair that you have to cut with a scissor. So I will show you how I do it, and then, you know, somebody on the internet can argue with me, probably. Anyways, so this, you take the guard, which is attached to the clipper, but I'm not doing that right now because A, it's loud, and B, it'll tear my hair out if I do this. And you want to have it as flat as possible up against the side of your head to the point where the scissors start, right? And then you just go up. Keep the tips of the guard pointed upwards at all times, because if you come into it like this, that blade on these clippers is just gonna go right into your head sideways like that, and you have a nice little ledge of goofy looking hair instead of it going up and following this imaginary line that you want to curve off into the ether. Alright, from there it's a simple matter of stepping down to each of the different blade lengths that you want. So I started with a number 2, and then I'm gonna do a number 1. So the 2 is gonna come all the way up, and then this is the bit that you really need the wall for. You just kind of use the wall in the silhouette of your hair to see where the next gradient should begin, and that's kind of based on the shape of your head again, and your preference for your hairstyle, of course. So mine's gonna go up pretty tight up to here, and then it's gonna start to flow off, and then this part gets cut with a scissor. And then, you know, as you go to the shorter one, you're only gonna go maybe up to here on me, because that's kind of where I want the fade line to be. And then, you know, down in here, right by the ear, right in the transition between the sideburn to the top of my head, that's where I'll get the really, really short one to kind of give that skin fade kind of a look, which is what I like and what I'm going for. Now, just as a note, I typically wouldn't have a shirt on when I do this, and even though it's cut up kind of high, I have coworkers and family. That's just, that's for something else. All right, here's what we're talking about when we talk variable taper. So this thing has this little lever here. It's not quite in focus. All right, so this thing has this little lever, and when you pull it up and down, you can see the teeth on that go up and down, and that actually elongates the entirety of the thing. Let's see if I can get it to go. There we go. So when you put the actual guard on, it gets a little bit longer and a little bit shorter. It actually moves the fattest part closer or further away to the blades. Closer it is, the longer the blade actually becomes. Further away it is, the shorter it becomes, because these things of course run downward at an angle. So when you put that on here, I like to keep it as long as possible on the first cut, come back again on the second one, swing it down, and so that it's shorter. That's the best way to get kind of like a nice flow without too many step marks in between. Now, if you don't have one of these, and you just have a regular set of clippers that don't have any adjustment, but you do have the different size guards, the thing that you can do when you go to your next smallest side guard is, instead of running it completely flat, tilt it up a bit like this. And that's gonna kind of do the same thing, because it's gonna bring the blades a little bit further away, and that's gonna kind of let you sneak up on the cut instead of, you know, just shaving right into it. So that's an option if you already have a set of clippers and it doesn't have the variable taper. Now, typically, in addition to my refreshment, I like to have, you know, some music playing and just have it like a real nice time. I mean, this is some you time. You should celebrate it. This isn't a utilitarian thing. It's something that, you know, you should really kind of delve into. But for the purpose of the video, we're going to keep it quiet, at least as quiet as possible, because that thing makes a bit of noise. So nothing to it but to do it, and I'm going to get into it. There's going to be a whole lot of me not looking at the camera because, well, I'm actually cutting my hair, and if I screwed it up, it'd make for a bad video, and I'd have a stupid haircut. See what I mean? Going straight up.
Alright, so I mean that
Didn't take a ton of hair off. I usually do this every 2 weeks, so I never really have super long hair. You can see maybe there's just a bit of shavings on there. This is when we start stepping it down and when it actually starts cutting some hair. So take the taper and swing it in, shorten up the blade, or if you were doing the tilt method, bring it down. And we're just gonna do the same thing. We're not gonna go up quite as high. You know, I went up to here last time, I'm gonna go about here this time. The idea that is every time that you shorten the blade length, you don't go quite as high as up on your head, and you try to fade it into that next layer. Alright, now if you kind of look at the two sides, you can already start to see that this has got a little bit of a cut to it versus this one's just kind of a puffy marshmallow nonsense. Stepping down. Same situation here with the taper. We're going to have it all the way along first and then kind of jump into it. A note for those of you with facial hair. So I've got, you know, the sideburn situation down in here into the beard. It's the opposite, right? So there's some lines in this general area that you're going to want to fade in and out of. So as much as you pull it out here, you pull it out here, which is generally easy because your face kind of goes that direction. So you kind of want to go up it. You don't want to come in too much with it. I mean, unless that's the look you're going for. This is the part here. Try to get, there we go. That's a good angle. You can see right where the profile is and how I'm making a smooth transition. You can start to see it kind of come into effect there with that little bit of just faded area that is really hard to do actually inside of a camera now that I'm doing it. Try to get a bit done here and I'll show you. Okay, so let's see if this works. Alright, so I'm kind of close to you. Sorry. Alright, so you can kind of see as I turn my head, this darker area, that's more hair. Lighter area, less hair, because it's my scalp. So then you turn your head, you can see, yeah, there's that. And you can see where the line is, and it's nice, has a nice contour to it. Versus this side, where it doesn't really have anything because it's all grown out at this point in time. We're getting there. Not looking too shabby. I might have a little bit of a thing in here that I need to kind of taper a little bit. Again, this is a lot easier to do when I'm not trying to put a camera in front of my face. So. Alright, that's better. Nice and clean. And right there you saw me use that kind of edge in, whatever, technique, I suppose. I should name it. I should give it like a name. I don't know. It probably has a name, but you don't know it. I don't know it. So if you knew it, you wouldn't be watching this video. Usually also I would take one length all the way around my head, but I'm trying to kind of keep this short and sweet. Alright, taper. That side, that side. Camera one, camera two. Camera one, camera two. So it's coming along. As you can see, we've got some shape to it. There's no, hopefully there isn't, I can't really see from this angle. There's no weird steps or anything. Back here probably look weird at this point because I haven't faded it in yet, but this area should look pretty decent. A little bit more refinement. By the way, you see me doing that a lot. You really want to go over the area like a whole lot of times. You may have been in the barber chair and sometimes been like, what is he or she doing? Like, why does it keep going? Well, your hair kind of sometimes it sticks to this, it sticks, you know, to your head or whatever, and by doing that, you make sure you really get it. So the longer you spend on it, like most things, the better quality product you'll have. So if you go to a barber and they're like, and you're done, you probably look bad. Alright, now you see on my hair too, I like to kind of come up into this area a little bit. I get this a little bit shorter. I think it looks better for my face. Also, there's a lot of gray hair in that area, and so if you just cut it off, you can't tell anyways. Alright, last one. See, this is the sort of stuff I wouldn't recommend somebody do like first time. And saying that literally made me start sweating because I'm like, what if I screw it up on video? So this is a half. So this is super short. It is a 1.5 millimeter guard. Now, of course, I gotta make it a little bit longer with the taper, which I am gonna do. I only do this just in this little area right here. Because if you don't want to go too far with it, so you'll see it's just a really small area. Slide it down. All right, and that's basically one side done. You can see. So here's the complete side of my head. So I can see it on the camera, and here is the au natural, about 10 and the 12 days worth of growth out of my head. Now, everybody says, how do you do the back of your hair? Well, the mirror comes into play. I should probably have a better mirror. This is a makeup mirror I stole from my wife years ago. She hasn't missed it, and it keeps working for me, so we're gonna stick with it. Now this bit's probably gonna be almost impossible to show you on camera, but the idea is that this is a mirror, so this is a mirror, and then if you do this, whoop, there's the back of my head, which, so that's how you do the back of your hair. And yeah, it gets tricky. And the first couple times you do it, it may not be great, but you'll get to it. Actually, the point now where I only use the mirror to check what I've done, because I can kind of do it by feel, because I just know that this bump right here, which by the way is called the external occipital protuberance anatomy. So that bump right there is usually where I kind of fade into the 1. I kind of keep the 2 up here. This bit is always just sort of a weird area. I just do the best I can and hack at it with the scissors, because I can't see it. No one's complained. Check. All right, well, I think it all looks pretty all right thus far. A little bit in here. I'm just gonna get to cutting the rest of my hair. And I'll probably speed this video up or something, and we can kind of come back at the end to show you the final results. And you can laugh or say, hey, yeah, I guess I could do that. Starting to look like a haircut. Maybe a little bit back here, huh? Not much I can do about this lump on my particular brand of head, considering it's quite extensive, and it's genetics, man. There's not much you can haircut around that, unfortunately. But I'm calling this pretty good. I might do a little bit of cleanup after I put you guys to bed. Alright, speaking of cleanup, a lot of people like to get lined up here around the ears and trim up all this sort of stuff, make it pretty clean. Ideally you'd have what is called a T for that, and it's like a very detailed trimmer with really, really fine teeth, and it cuts right to the skin and possibly through your skin, depending on how lucky you are or aren't. But something like this will do well as long as you have the blade set pretty well, and if you didn't screw with it when you bought it and it was a good set, this should be fine. So you just kind of take the corner and then just kind of trace along, where you do or where you do not want hair. Pretty self-explanatory, really. And just like that, you got kind of a nice clean line. And you can do the same thing around the back and everything like that. You'll do that with the mirror trick. I'm not going to do it in front of the camera because honestly it's awkward as hell. That's probably the most useful part of what I can share. Now a lot of people of course do ask, what to do with the rest of this. Now mine, when it's fixed, it's got one of these, full hockey things that it kind of does. So being absolutely perfect is not what the name of the game is, but a couple basic tips for scissor cutting your hair. Good thing to do is take your hand, stick it in there. Let me see if I can get a little glorious close up. All right, so stick your hand in here, right? And then you don't really want to come through like this and just hack it off. You want to come at it at an angle. So this gives you a little texture. It doesn't make it look like you just cut off a whole bunch of your hair. Like, if your brother or your sister got a hold of the clippers and did that thing. That's kind of the tip there, where if you're cutting things, do it at an angle like that. Who would have thought something else that's really hard to do on camera? Anyways, you fine folks, should get the picture from that. I'm hopeful. I'm going to continue cutting this thing, and then I'll do an after just to prove that, we actually did do this, and this wasn't just, kind of all made up. Hopefully this was totally helpful, or at least a little bit helpful, or at least entertained you for a couple of minutes. But if you do get into the habit of cutting your own hair, it's easy to keep up on it. Like I said, I do it once every 2 weeks or so, which is a lot more than I'd do if I was going and paying $20 or $30 with tip, each time. And just think about all that money that you could be saving for beer. Well, you throw in a beard line-up and a couple other grooming bits like an eyebrow trim, and yes, guys, you should always trim your eyebrows. And this is the final result. Well, I don't think we're looking too bad, and if you do, well, that's just like your opinion, man. And go ahead, give this a try. I mean, it's only hair, it grows back, and chances are you probably won't see anybody for the next 2 weeks anyways. So, have a great night. Happy adventures in haircutting.